but I was representing all kinds of families who had children and were on welfare and that kind of thing. And so it was a natural, I spent all of my work life and political life in San Francisco from 1990 to 2013. And that's when I got recruited to the board. And that just all made sense because we were all part of a community about trying to make life better for people in San Francisco. I was in college 1960 to 64, and it was at the early stages of the civil rights movement. People came to Yale, where I was in college, wanting to recruit students for a project in Mississippi, and we went down, and it was an earth-shaking, really emotionally. I came from an pretty upper-class white background, and it was really like being in a foreign country, and it just shook the foundations of who I was. And 80,000 people voted in that election. And it actually later formed the basis for the challenge the all-white Mississippi delegation at the Democratic Convention in Atlantic City in 1964. And the decision was made to have a much bigger project the following summer to actually try to register people to vote. And that was called Mississippi Freedom Summer, mainly famous to everyone in the country because 3 civil rights workers were killed by the Ku Klux Klan. And it was one of the major motivating factors in passing the Civil Rights Act, which today is being dismantled. An example of how ordinary people organized together can actually change the course of history. So dedicated activists were really, truly able to change the world. There's a lot of cynicism today and feeling overwhelmed. And yet, looking back on that, why not? People can put together organizations and they can make that change. Well, I graduated from college and came out here to Berkeley. So I went to law school and I passed the bar and started working in Berkeley Legal Services. And then in 1971, the events at San Quentin happened, which, as I explained earlier, they really happened to me. They were not part of who I was, but they caused me, I was wrongly accused of murder of guards in an alleged prison breakout. And it caused me to flee the country for 13 years and returned in late 1983 and surrendered to the authorities in July of 1984. And it took a long time, the whole trial process, but I was eventually acquitted in 1986, June 26th. And so in 1990, got a job as a staff attorney at Bay Area Legal Aid in the public benefits unit, representing people who were applying for or being kicked off of SSI. And, that got me connected to San Francisco. And I did not just representing clients, but I did aggressive advocacy at the welfare department. And in the course of all of that, I came in touch with Coleman, particularly through Margaret Rodkin, she asked me to be on the board of Coleman. And I was particularly interested in doing it because I thought one of the real primary goals was to develop youth leadership, people who've never spoken in public before. And, in the space of a few months, they would be standing up in front of the Board of Education, advocating for this, that, or the other. And some of those people have gone on to great careers. John Avalos became a supervisor, and Sandy Fewer was on the school board, and it just, that part of it, more than the actual work they were getting done in terms of affecting change at the school, that leadership development just intrigued me. And Fahmy, when he first came on, he's very different than our leadership in the past. And I think I and other members of the board, we sort of said, oh, this is different. And so it took a little getting used to, but his enthusiasm and creative thinking is the way, nothing short of astonishing. I really think that Coleman, it did the work it was set out to do, but at a lack of thinking outside the box. And Fahmy's constantly thinking outside the box. And so I'm very thrilled and enthusiastic about Coleman's future and connecting more strongly than we have in the past with other organizations. It's an incredibly difficult time, unlike anything that I ever experienced working with families in San Francisco. So I think that's particularly hard, and I think it sort of behooves Coleman to address that head on. But the key thing for me in my life, and I think for young people working at Coleman, is that collectively, as a group, you can get accomplished much more than you would imagine. I would hope, as things move forward, that there's more and more collaboration and cooperation between Coleman and other nonprofits in the city that in some way or another their work relates to Coleman's work.